I'm just glad other games make oopsies too. And let me tell you, Overwatch just got a really funny one. Even though most of my lore focus is aimed at League of Legends, and back in the day also World of Warcraft, I still like to casually enjoy the worlds of other games. I generally try to keep in touch with the bigger universes, such as Dark Souls, Elden Ring, well, even Cyberpunk, but I don't go all in on these. And that's mostly because my brain is reaching its limits. Look, I know the story of 160 champions in League, I remember the original 150 Pokemon, I know the entire layout of Azeroth, so please don't make me remember all the legions in Warhammer. Anyway, years back, Overwatch was one of the universes I considered covering for content. In fact, on one April Fools, instead of covering the lore of League of Legends, I did cover the story of Zenyatta. So in general, I know what this universe is about. And I know some of the details and the plot points. Which is why Blizzard's latest move made me crack up a bit. You see, the lore of Overwatch has been on the edge for a while now. It is obvious that a lot of people love this universe. They love how the different characters interact, and the general plot points are interesting too. However, similar to most gaming universes, where gameplay goes above the lore, which also does include League of Legends, the way the lore is being delivered has not always been great. In general, most people want cutscenes, cinematics, stuff you can watch. Even just audio-based lore is not ideal. Though let me tell you, it is still miles ahead of actually forcing people into reading. And in Overwatch's case, that has always also been a criticism. The lore there is simply not being updated fast enough. And over time, as far as I know, Zenyatta's lore became kind of a meme. It is all usually just centered around new heroes. Which means that sometimes you may get a bunch of really cool animations close together, but then there is a half-a-year gap before you get something else that is cool. So overall, the animations and the cinematics are awesome, even their comic series is great, but the pacing has always dragged Overwatch down a bit. Of course, originally they were planning on fixing a lot of these issues with Overwatch 2, which would have its own story missions that would fill in the gaps, which I guess Blizzard is still trying to do. But since all of this was massively downscaled, I'm not sure if that even works now. Anyway, to prove Blizzard's everlasting dedication to its universe and their characters, they made the biggest mistake they could have made. They officially announced the canonical age of all of their heroes, which is something you should never do unless it is actually important for the story. The reason is simple. Unless you are planning for it from the very beginning, it is incredibly difficult to pull out any meaningful numbers from an already written story. How do I know this? I've done it in the past. That's right, I actually made a video where I went through the story of all 160 champions from League of Legends, and I tried to pin down their canonical age. And in all the cases where it was not possible simply because we just didn't have a reference, I looked at the story events that were happening around them, so I could at least pin down the possible range for their age. My conclusion from that video is: it is really hard to do this. And I know I made some mistakes in the process. For example, I miscalculated the years around a certain event. That was before we got an entire book around that event alone. And I accidentally made all the champions related to that 10 years younger. Or older. I don't remember anymore. But that's not even the worst thing that came out of this. No, the real reason why making that video was a mistake is that people get really attached to their favorite champions. And I realized this when I covered Sett. Sett is an awesome fighter from Ionia. But unfortunately, if you go through his entire story, you won't find any numbers that could at least tease his age. However, we know that his story is related to the invasion of Ionia. We know that he was roughly born around that time. And so, you can at least give him boundaries of what age he can be. So in that video, I jokingly, or at least I believed it was obvious that it was done jokingly, I told people that the minimum possible age was 14. Meaning that if Riot ever decided to confirm him as a 14-year-old, the lore would be able to support it. Of course, realistically, he is going to be older than that. But that didn't stop people from calling me an idiot because apparently, I confirmed that Sett was 14. even though that is not something I did. At least some people found it funny because it could be considered a JoJo reference. Anyway, the point is, by looking at surrounding events, no matter what universe you are delving into, you can at least give boundaries to every character's age. You should always be able to tell their minimum and maximum possible age. Which is why it is so funny to see that Overwatch completely ignored this. That's right, when the official age numbers came out, the lore community was shocked. And that's for a very good reason. It seems like whoever came up with these numbers just looked at the heroes, and they assigned them age based on what they look like. You see, Cassidy, formerly Necrit, looks a little bit older and he has a beard, so he would fit 39. Lucio, a younger fellow, let's give him 28. Kiriko, a younger addition to the roster, she looks like 21. Or Hanzo, an older, wiser man, just about 40. You see, if you think about this, dealing with the Overwatch's character's appearance alone is something very much in character for Blizzard. After all, they did come up with an entire character sheet with score based on how appealing they could be to players. So having everything rooted around appearance alone is nothing new here. But if you want to talk about the age that is based on an already existing story, that's where you're gonna run into issues. Especially if the universe is based on events that happened in the past. Well, as you just saw, according to these canonical numbers, Kiriko is 21. If you look at her, it seems to kinda fit. But that is until you scroll down a little bit. Because right below that age, you will find some info on the Shimada clan. Long story short, it is a bunch of swordmasters. And here you learn that Kiriko grew up here with Genji and Hanzo. You can even see them all here in the official art. So looking at this, if you assume that Kiriko is like 7, 8 or 9 years old, and I'm being generous, it seems like Genji would be about 12 or 13, and Hanzo would be maybe 15 or 16, right? They are still kids and teenagers in training. Well, if that's the case, if Kiriko is 21, then based on this picture it would have to mean that Genji would be about 27, and Hanzo, being his older brother, being about 30. Well, if you look at their canonical age, you may find that Genji is 37 and Hanzo is 40. Meaning that in this picture, if Kiriko is 7, and I am purposefully giving her lower age to try and make sense out of this, but even if we go down to 5, it still doesn't make sense. Well, then Genji would still be 23 here, and Hanzo would be 26, which I guess you can try and make this canon. I mean, cartoon characters never fit their age anyway. But if you go for it and if you try and make it canon, then that would still mean that Hanzo and Genji were just trainees while they were adults. So that's the first issue that people very quickly caught on. Besides that, some people notice that while some heroes age, others don't. For example, in this OG picture of the original Overwatch where everyone is young, of course all of them slowly aged, besides Mercy and Tracer, who apparently are 39 and 28 despite looking the exact same. Also, if Mercy is 39 and Soldier is 58 and Reaper is 60, how young is Tracer here if in the present days she is 28? But also, in the other picture, you can see young Anna with her daughter Farah and Mercy. But currently, Farah is 34 and Mercy is 39. So in this picture, there is only a 5-year gap between them. Which, sure, you can make it work if you bump up their age. For example, if you say that Farah is 13 here, then Mercy would be 18, and sure, that kinda fits. But since Cassidy is the exact same age as Mercy, then this looks like a really cool version of grown-up 18-year-old Cassidy. But you know, in general, a lot of these numbers also have something very funny in common. You have Ashe at 41, Widowmaker at 35, Baptist at 38, Soldier at 58, Reaper at 60, Roadhog at 50. Maybe they should be renamed to Boomerwatch. Take it from Junkrat, he's just gone. And I mean, his page is just missing. I guess they didn't want to break the perfect formation of 6 heroes per row. Speaking of which, at the very top you also have the newest hero, Ilari. Based on her appearance and looking at others, how old do you think she is? As a hint, here is Bridget at 25. So, 28, 30, maybe even 40 would fit here. Yeah, she's 18 because, why not, I guess. But people on the internet found out that the fun does not end here. So for example, Wrecking Ball, aka Hammond, is 16 years old, despite the average hamster lifespan being 3. But hey, it's the future. Though that's definitely not enough of an excuse for Sojourn, who according to the canon age is 47. Which would have been fine if people didn't do the math. Apparently, the Omnic crisis happened 28 years ago, and we know that she was there, so she was 19 when that happened. But then, if you go through the novel that's about these events, you'll find that she was in the army for 4 years before she got promoted to a captain. But she also got her first cybernetic augment before she joined the army. So she got her first surgery when she was 13 years old, and somehow she joined the army at 15. She was literally going up the ranks in the army as a 15-year-old. But that's not even the weirdest one. In the same novel, where she was 19 when these events happened, she had her twin sister Valentine, who had a daughter called Bonnie, who was 5 years old in the novel. Which means that Sojourn's twin sister had a child when she was 14. You know that people are pregnant for 9 months, right? So long story short, I don't believe anyone gave any of these numbers a single thought. They looked at what the characters look like, maybe they watched their cinematic, and they just gave them a number that would roughly match their appearance. Which I guess is also how you get Orisa? The same Orisa you may remember in Overwatch 1, right? The game that happened before Overwatch 2, which apparently had like a 2 or 3 year long time skip. So, how can she be 1 year old then? Anyway, as you can see, figuring out age is hard. Which is why, when writing a fictional universe, you never reveal it. If there is something I learned from my experiment, it is better to let people have their own headcanon. And you just let them figure out the age for you. That way, you never have to address anything, and you can keep making up stories that don't even have to link together. The moment you give your story an anchor point, writing cohesive stories suddenly becomes hard. And sometimes, when you try to fit in other numbers, stuff doesn't make sense anymore. Take it from Ash Ketchum, they only revealed his age at the very end. Overall, while this is a big screw up on Blizzard's part, I don't think it's that big compared to all the other problems that Overwatch 2 currently has, such as not even existing. Though I do believe this is a big mistake for a different reason. This has done a lot of damage to the credibility of Overwatch's lore. People who really love this universe will now be on edge. Because if this basic info is not right, how can they be sure they can make complex stories make sense? A similar thing has actually happened to Riot in the past. Legends of Runeterra has always delivered incredible lore for League of Legends. But then they accidentally came up with a time-traveling character. And from that point on, a lot of people suddenly took it a lot less seriously. And even to this day, people don't look at the lore delivery in the same way they used to. And Overwatch just fell into the exact same hole. It will be difficult to rebuild the trust of the lore community, just as it has been in League's community. Personally, I believe the best option would be to just take down the numbers and pretend like nothing happened. I mean, look at Moira! She looks pretty cool for a 50-year-old. But then again, as someone who has never really cared about what people look like in my life, I don't think age is gonna affect the quality of a fictional character. That is, unless they have an eye patch, because that is 4 extra points.